Hi everyone, welcome back to the Radiant Lawcast. My name is Sena.
I'm Alex.
It's been a while since we did one of these.
I know, you've been slack.
Yeah, I did drop the ball. Admittedly, it is sort of my fault. But we've gone through lots of changes. I'll talk about that later. There's a lot happening on our side. But we decided to come back cooler, stronger. And we're going to do different stuff this time around. We'll have more episodes. We'll have more people involved. We'll talk about more interesting stuff. And hopefully, Alex, this will be another great session.
All right, looking forward to it.
Start off. It's been an interesting year at Radiant, obviously.
Yes.
Lots of changes.
Yes.
We doubled the size of the firm.
I've actually lost count.
Of how many people you are now.
Yeah.
Before we get into, the contracting thing you want to talk about, what's been your one takeaway, over the last 12 months, sort of just recruiting more people, getting into different lines of work, providing different forms of support to different companies, challenges, things that excite you? What's been, coming top of your mind the most in most of these instances?
I think it's kind of more is more. I mean, it's been fun having more people, right? They're good. They're great people.
We're a bigger, more diverse team of found.
We are much more diverse, which is great. We're much bigger.
Younger.
Oh, no.
I don't think
it's a children's crusade. I've said that before, but it's a children's crusade.
I didn't think we could get younger than we already were. But then I look at some of the people. When I joined, I was like, I'm like the youth. I'm like the kid around here.
Now you're old.
More people joining. They're like, okay, actually, maybe not.
It is ridiculously young team, which is fun, but also nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And so more is more. It's been great having them. It feels so good. We've opened in Trinidad.
Oh yes, that's been exciting.
Right, so that's incredible. So now we have the ability to support North American time zone contracts from there. I don't know when we opened in Joburg, but I think we may have opened in Joburg in the last year.
Well, we've gotten more people from Joburg, so we
certainly more people
do have a Joburg office in a way.
Yeah, and it's gone brilliantly. It's been such fun.
It has been fun. And that's probably one of the reasons why we not really took a break from this, but it took us a while just to get going again.
Yeah.
But we're back.
All right.
Throughout this period of time, you also released a book, Sign Here by Alex Hamilton. You guys can find on Amazon or online. Just go on Google, Sign Here, and then Alex's. Also, you've got your face pops up the minute I search for the book. That's
good. That's a bit stalky.
I'm not sure if it's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
But it's fine. Anyways, you have your book, Sign Here by Alex Hamilton. I've read it.
He claims to have read it, folks. He claims to have read it.
It's actually a short read. It's
a very short read.
It's a very short read. You can get through it.
Short words.
In a flight from Cape Town to Joburg. Done.
Yeah, you can.
You can.
But
basically, I wanted to chat to you. Why did you feel the need to write a book? One. And in short, what is it about?
Okay. So I was told I had to write a book, and it's kind of marketing, right? Because you have to demonstrate rather than assert expertise, right? That's what they always tell you in marketing. So they say, got to go write a book. What turned out the case was it's incredibly helpful to write as a way of thinking. And it was actually an incredibly helpful experience because it forced me to figure out what the hell I actually think about contracting, fit it into a single framework, bring it together. What's it about? It's about how to do contracting faster, right? The subtitle is Enterprise Guide to Closing Contracts Quickly. And it is all about the practical steps you can take to actually improve your contracting, making it less miserable than is so common.
And one of the things that I found, so in the book, you talk about the radical approach to contracting. Can you just summarize that for people who may not be aware what radical stands for, what it means, and, maybe want to apply something similar in trade and in practice?
Yeah. So the book kind of starts with contracting really matters. It's done terribly. It's a miserable experience fighting the wrong points in this insane kind of dance of silly positions begetting silly positions.
The way we're currently doing it sucks. There's ways to improve.
Right, so there are ways of improving. And then there's kind of a philosophy of radical, but before that is kind of some key kind of themes. So one of those is that contracting is not about getting contracts in place. Contracting is getting commercial relationships going, and that commercial relationships create the value. And if you think about it that way, then the idea of going into a relationship by beating each other up over stupid points is really not very thoughtful. I make a case that contracting is standardizable as a process, that we need in law to be a little bit less of the artist, a little bit more of the process engineer, a little bit more science. There's a kind of a key point that there's no silver bullet, that contracting is just too complicated. In order to be able to kind of reduce to, well, we're going to talk about some of these topics, right? But like, there's always like kind of the latest kind of, magic wand that's going to be applied that will fix everything. Yeah. I argue you can't do that. And so based on these kind of principles, and also kind of the need for leadership in this area, we have radical as the kind of philosophy. It of course stands for something. So it's kind of reasonable terms, automation, data-driven rather than just kind of handed down knowledge, incremental improvement rather than kind of big bang transformations, which never work, a collaborative approach, including with the other side, right? I actually think it's important to actually build relationships, the need for accelerating contracting because it's just so darn slow right now. And then long-term relationships, so long-term rather than transactional relationships. And the whole emphasis is on being human, and that we can use tech, and tech's cool, and data's cool, and process improvement's cool, but ultimately it's about humans enter into relationships, and we need to be offering a service that brings out the human in people.
You mentioned tech and automation and data and all of that stuff, right? And that the ultimate purpose is to make everything easier, to make things quicker. But as a lawyer, say, I've got a client.
As an artist.
Lawyer and an artist. But as a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
I've got a client. I want to feel like I'm adding value.
Yes.
I want to feel like I'm still relevant.
Yes.
And at times, maybe if a deal takes longer, maybe if a deal appears to be complex, maybe if it appears, from the business people, the commercial contacts in a company, I may feel like I'm adding value, and they may feel like I'm adding value, and then they pay me, and then they retain me.
Right. And it's all a bit performative, but everyone feels better.
Everyone feels better, especially the lawyer, right?
Especially the lawyer. Yeah.
How do I reconcile that as a lawyer, reading your book, to then come and say, well, there's a future for me in the greater scheme of things? What if a business person may feel like, well, I can just download a document or automate a template or whatever it is, however they go about it. How do I feel like there's still a role for me in the grander scheme of things?
Yeah, and this is a fair thing, right? Because there are lots of people who've been arguing that we're going to replace all lawyers with AI, right? The rise of the robots.
My biggest fear.
Right? And I can see how that could be quite threatening.
Yeah. It's like, well, who needs Sena when you can...
Yeah, when you have a little robot Sena. Yeah, no. So I get the concern. I don't think that's really how it's going to play out.
Okay.
First of all, we got to start with, we are in the business of creating value for clients. You create value by meeting their needs. The focus has got to be on what the clients actually need. Anyone who thinks that they should be structuring their lives around what they need rather than someone else needs is going to have struggled earning a living, right?
Yeah.
And just because 90% of the industry kind of works that way doesn't mean that it'll be able to forever, because people like Radiant are coming along where our first value is start with the client's needs.
Yeah.
So what do the clients need? Well, they just kind of want to get their deals done without giving the farm away.
Yes.
Right? That's what they really care about. And although we can take them onto this kind of performative journey of everything's complex and everything's difficult and, we made it, but boy, right? Ultimately, they're not stupid, right? They know that it can be done smarter. And once they see it being done smarter and with less effort and less pain all around, right? They love it, which is why we have an insanely high customer satisfaction score, right? Because they've never seen anything like it. They've never seen anything this fast, this slick. And also our focus on not making pain out of it. So I think if you want to be successful long term, then you got to focus on the customer's needs and the client's needs, and that's all that matters. All right. Then the question is, how do you deliver that, right? Yeah. And this really comes down to technology is good at some stuff, but humans are good at other stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Sorry, I'm speaking on behalf of all humans.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've watched Terminator.
Right, exactly. Right. So Terminator is implausible in this context because computers ain't close to even thinking, right? And we've got like a lot of overhype on AI, which I'll come back to.
Yeah.
So computers are good at the repetitive stuff. Humans are good at the relationship stuff, right?
True.
Computers are good at accuracy. Humans are good at creativity and design, right? These are different, very different skills.
Yeah.
And you're not going to replace humans' creativity, ability to create relationships, empathy, etc., anytime soon, right? Not in our lifetimes, not even close. Technology is just nowhere near this, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there's stuff that humans are a bit rubbish at, right? And there is no glory in sitting there till midnight, clicking your mouse repeatedly to do some really mundane term, which I think is actually the reality of what you're describing is this romantic life as a lawyer on the front lines fighting the good.
You do spend a lot of time.
You spend a lot of time just sitting there, click, 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 right?
Yeah.
So don't do that at home. Use some technology and actually focus on the things that humans are good at, which is going to have, there's going to be tons of space for, right? Because, in your deals, there is still the interesting stuff that is new. There is the ability, the need to like understand where the parties are coming from and really try to find a compromise that works for everyone. All of these skills like negotiations and relationship building are incredibly valuable and still add tons of value.
Yeah.
But, if you're incentivized to sit there working till midnight because you charge by the billable hour, there's kind of a clock running down on that, right? We're here. There are others like us emerging. I
think with
wouldn't.
Time, more people are going to start dropping that model.
Yeah. But like it's a legal industry, so you still got probably another 50 years. But I think the key here is that kind of the model. So rather than the Terminator model or the robots are going to replace us, I think we should think about it as the bionic lawyer, as it's the lawyer who has the exoskeleton and Iron Man of law, right? You have all these technology that works with you, but you're very much leading it. And I think that's a more positive picture than replaced by robots.
It's not all doom and gloom, right? So it's not
at all. I think life is a lot more interesting when you're working on the stuff that's interesting and not just doing all the boring, repetitive stuff.
Of course. And I read so many articles. I think it's fear mongering a lot of the time, like AI to replace the lawyer, AI to replace the
it's like good copy. It sells.
Yeah, and then all of us are now like sitting there panicking, like, oh, will I have a career in 20 years from now?
Right.
I don't know if you'll still be practicing 20 years from now.
No, I will be.
I definitely
my
will.
dad is at 82, is still practicing as an architect. So I've realized I've just turned 50. That's another thing that's happening this kind of year. So I kind of feel like this doomed sense that I'm going to be doing this forever. And I love it because it's like an interesting problem to work on.
Of course. So lastly, before we head off, in your book, you do mention blockchain, AI, smart contracts. And obviously, you are not trying to get into the doom and gloom. It's not Terminator here. But you do have a couple of rude thoughts about that.
Yeah, that's true.
Just unpack them briefly.
Okay.
For me, what?
So this goes back to what I was saying before about silver bullets.
Yeah.
So like humans just seem to be utterly always on the lookout for what is the one thing that will make all my pain go away, right? And we all want that. And so we're very susceptible to these snake oil salesmen, these hucksters who are coming along saying, this magic solution will replace everything, right? Which leads to less than useful conversations like the rise of the robots, AI replace lawyers, yada, yada. So we've seen recently, first of all, AI was one, right? And I've talked about that. We've also had this concept of blockchain and smart contracts. And that basically says you turn contracts into pure code. You don't even have a legal terms that could be understood by a lawyer. The contract is the code. And then you just run that and you don't need lawyers, right? Well, this is, a terrible idea, because you give up all of the flexibility that the legal system brings, right? The ability to recognize that contracts will never be complete. Nobel Prize was run recently for pointing that out. And yet the system works because it's kind of a pragmatic one that can deal with concepts like reasonable, which computers just can't. Yeah. And So there's kind of, this whole idea of smart contracts is terrible. There was an example just a day before we recorded this where $30 million worth of Ethereum was burnt up by one line that was wrong in a contract, and no one can ever get the money back out again. $30 million, yeah. And there's been much bigger losses, right? So it's very dangerous, doesn't really work, not very helpful. And ultimately, it's not in line with what we're saying, which is this is all about creating relationships between human beings. It's big companies, it's humans at big companies, and people seem to be really missing that point. You're also getting it now with what's called contract lifecycle management, which is the latest, sales wheeze of a kind of system that automates all the parts of contracting and just generally will cause your whole process to get basically gummed up because it's too hard to just put this problem is too hard to just replace it with tech and think it will work first time round. So I think there is definitely a space for the human in this. I think there's plenty of space for lawyers. I wish we'd spend more time thinking about the hard problems such as improving stuff than just perpetuating silly positions. But I'm kind of optimistic about it as long as we avoid the silver bullets.
Okay, I am now. I won't lie, I was scared because I thought TikTok. Yeah. I told you I watched Terminator and then...
Yeah, you should not watch that. You're too young for that.
I'm too young for Terminator. No one's too young for Terminator. The best Terminator movie came out in 1992. And then since then, I've always had a fear of being replaced by robots.
See what I mean?
Yeah, of course. And then when people start writing articles about how AI will take over lawyers, and then you think, well, the human touch.
Yeah, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right, son.
So the human touch is necessary. Mm-hmm. I think going forward.
But not artistry. Not just making stupid changes and grandstanding, right? Yeah. That's not helpful. But just pragmatically helping people figure out what they need and helping them get that is an incredibly valuable activity.
And of course, your computer, your code cannot know for certain what your client wants. I think you know your client.
Yeah, you can put a certain number of options into document assembly, and that can help with lots of things. But it's the world is so much richer than we know.
It is so much richer than you know. Alex's book is available on Amazon and wherever you get your books. So just go online, Alex Hamilton, sign here, you'll find it. You can go on the Radiant Law website. You can find out more about the team, find out what we're up to. We're always doing interesting things, yeah?
Always.
Take care, everyone. I'll check you next time.
Thanks, man.
Cheers.